Since 1994, God has been using YouthWorks to transform a generation of teenagers. By bringing these teenagers to a new place and encountering new things, by getting outside of their comfort zones, we started to see that students started to see that God was at work and God was moving. And as they went home, they started to think about the experiences they had and realized that God was moving all along. God was moving in the communities that they had just come from and was going to continue to be moving in those places. And not only that, but God was also and is moving at home in their own community. And so God utilized mission trips, these week-long mission trips, to continue to spur teenagers on to continue to love and serve in their own communities. And whether that was the original intent of YouthWorks from the very beginning, we know that that's what continues to happen. That teenagers go home and God continues to work at transforming their lives and their hearts, and they continue to invest in their own communities in ways they never would have if they hadn't experienced something new and different by going on a mission trip.
YouthWorks was, I believe, an arm of the church, and it was serving as the action of discipleship, but we also found that it was a place to where people came to know Jesus for the first time. So there was many different levels of what was going on as far as faith development there at YouthWorks, and kids came as they were, and we were so thankful for these communities that by the grace of God took us in all of our warts and all of our just not having perfect kids coming to learn to be the hands and feet of Christ and trying to teach them about what the world is truly about and what the kingdom, God's hope for the kingdom was. And so we saw big old guys down. I remember being at Navajo one time at Kids Club and just watching them just play with these kids, and later finding out that they don't do that. They're basically just jocks that just spend time playing basketball and football and never playing with kids and understanding that they had a gift.
I saw God move in the lives of students in the way that they started to make connections with people differently. I think moving towards respectful service meant being versus doing first, and that they had a chance to be with people, listen, kind of how we had been listening to community members. They got to sit and get to know people in a different way and then serve, if even serving meant doing, because sometimes serving still meant being and just being with people. And so I feel like I love that moment when you're seeing the click, click, click in their brain of like, oh, this matters. And me sitting here with this senior adult in a residence home, just listening, is actually respectful service. And I think there's just a lot of fun aha moments for students that I feel like God gifted them, and the ability to take that home and do that wherever they are and think about service through that lens of how do I listen first before I'm doing. And I think it changed a lot of their postures, even in those small ways that hopefully made an impact for their future and how they think about people.
I've always loved about YouthWorks that we sort of this bridge to the other, whether that's another community, someone who sees their faith slightly different. And when the next generation, when students are able to get away from sort of the daily routines that they have and cross that bridge to the other, suddenly we can create space that allows for folks who they otherwise might not hear from or see to have a voice. And then as they listen to that voice and learn from that voice, can take that and then serve in a meaningful way.
Over the next 30 years at YouthWorks, my hope is that God would continue to impact the lives of this next generation.
Our ministry is incredibly important for the next 30 years. I have a 3-year-old at home, and I think about the other kids his age that are becoming adults and even entering into leadership roles in 20 or 30 years from now. And we need leaders in our nation, politically and in churches and in educational systems and in the media and in business, that have a heart for service.
I think people really want to do things that like help others. And YouthWorks is an incredible vehicle to build that bridge for people and put them in relationship with others. And I think that the way YouthWorks gets to do that in 30 years might look different, but the heart behind that, I hope that God is still in that space for YouthWorks, and that some of the core pieces of YouthWorks around broadening perspectives, developing leaders, some of that can live. It just takes life in new ways because that's what the need is.
It's incredibly important that the work that we're doing right now continues. That we can put young people in front of folks that are different than they are, in a different community. They can listen to them and they can learn from them and they can serve them. Because that's going to transform how they decide to spend their lives, the professions that they go into, and ultimately it's going to transform the way that they lead in the next few decades.
My hope is that more and more teenagers will come to know who Jesus is. They will not only find Jesus, but they will understand what it looks like and means to follow Jesus, to live out the Great Commission, but to also learn and understand what it looks like to be the servant of all, to get down on their hands and knees and wash the feet of their community, their friends, their family, their church. My hope is that God would continue to use the work that's happening to impact and change a generation, so that this generation today can go and change the world.
I remember one time being in Bluefield, West Virginia, where a dad and a son were on a mission trip. They were from Pittsburgh. Dad was a pipe fitter, union pipe fitter from Pittsburgh, and it was a group that he just got asked to come drive the van. And the dad was just said, things were not good between my son and I. We were not in good terms, and he wasn't sure about him coming on this trip. But he drove the van anyway. And then on Thursday night at the foot washing, the son came up to his dad and washed his feet. And his dad lost it. And they were so much in love with each other as they had been, but walls just got torn down. And that's what was going on as far as life change. And just to ponder that and think about that was the beauty of God at work. And that was a lot of what we saw at YouthWorks over and over again, with simplicity, with sharing just the gospel of Jesus Christ, ending the week with this foot washing that no telling how many people went through this awkward service of taking off their socks and washing one another's feet, but as an act of love and remembrance of what Christ did for all of us.